Hello, welcome to the Retired Farm Boy channel. My name is Jeff. For those that are new to the channel, thank you for tuning in for the first time. For those that have been here before, thank you for coming back. I sure appreciate that. My wife and I went on a vacation. It actually was an anniversary vacation for us. It was our 17th year anniversary. We try to go on a trip about every year. The last 3 or 4 years we haven't, though, because we started hosting my family's Thanksgiving. And so as Thanksgiving got pushed back a week this year, we're able to go on a trip. So we really enjoyed it. And that reminds me, happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. This is a Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. I know people are hurrying and scurrying to get their location, destinations, and cooking and whatever else might be going on. So let's all remember what Thanksgiving is all about, is to give thanks for what we have and how our country came together in the very, very many years ago. So we enjoyed going to national parks, and Hot Springs is one of the national parks areas. It's one of 63. We've been to 10 or 11 national parks, and so this was another reason we wanted to go. But the primary reason, honestly, besides the national park, was the bathhouses. We've heard stories from people that's been there and those that haven't and want to go, about the mineral springs that come out of the ground. The water is 143 degrees when it comes out of the ground for the hot springs. And then there's also cold springs that I'll talk about a little bit more too, that are in that area as well, that contains this mineral water. So we went there primarily to take part in these bathhouses and see what it was about, really. There's 8 bathhouses. Only 2 of them, though, are operating as a bathhouse any longer. The others are like museums and such. One of the bathhouses still operating. We actually ended up going to both of them. The first one has different pools, so like not a swimming pool that big, but a good sized pool where the water, it's 4 different ones. The water's 100 in one, 102 in one, and 104 in another one. And then there's a cooling pool that's 95 degrees. So you can actually stay in there as long as you want to, but I'm telling you, you get in a 104-degree pool, you're going to get out of there quicker than you might think you would. That's quite a bit above the body temperature, and it doesn't take a whole lot, as it turns out. The other one is more traditional, and I've actually got a separate video that I'm going to attach to this video at the end. It's a pretty comical story of my experience going through this one. I hope I piqued your interest a little bit. It's sort of funny, or at least I tried to be funny in it, of what happened. And so it's more traditional, where it's an individual process more so, and actually separated by gender as well. So the men are on one floor and the women go to a different floor. So it's more the traditional model that they had back in that time frame. One of the bathhouses is actually called Superior Bathhouse Brewery now, and they use the mineral water to make their craft beer, and they also make root beer. And it was really some of the best root beer I've had since when I was growing up and was going to A&W soda shops back in the day when I was a kid. So really good root beer. Like I mentioned, the mineral water is both hot and cold, so you can actually go to some of these places where the water's coming out of the ground or whatever, and it's real hot coming out, or it's real cold. And what was interesting is there's all kinds of stations around the town where you can get the cold water, and there was all kinds of people. I guess they lived there, and it's a pretty common thing. They would have the big, huge water bottles, and they would be filling up 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, at a time, and loading them back in their cars. I guess they drank that all the time. So it was very common to see people filling up at these filling stations all the time that were probably locals. So that was an interesting thing, I think, as well. One of the things we did is we took a trolley tour, and we like doing that because you get to hear about the city, the overall things, and gives you an idea of what you want to go do next. But you also get the stories, right? So some of the things that we did learn, though, is there's American Eagle Refuge. in Hot Springs. So there's all kinds of eagles flying over that we could see on this tour. There's a military hospital that was built during World War II, and it's a massive piece of real estate that is now sitting empty. They can't really figure out what they're going to do with it. It finally closed down many years ago, in fact, when the Bethesda Military Hospital opened up in Maryland. It's a fantastic view, and it's an overwhelming view of the city area, and it's sitting there empty. So I hope they can figure out something to do with it, because it'd be a shame to see that torn down. I've got a video about that you'll see how big it is. Some of the stories we heard, and this is where, you know, you sort of wonder, fact or fiction, right? So Frank James, Jesse James' brother, supposedly came into town one time, and everybody was worried that he was going to rob the train, or thought he was going to rob the train that came through town. Now, I get a kick every time I hear about Jesse James or Frank James. They've been everywhere. About everywhere I've been, it seems like there's a story about them. So those guys really got around on some horses, I'm telling you. That was something that was interesting to hear. Something I really learned, though, that was pretty cool is a baseball history here in Hot Springs. It's the original spring training site, and it's where it actually began, and teams started coming there to do spring training. At one time, there was 4 fields in the town of Hot Springs. Now I think there's one that's still in use, and another one that might still be there, but not really used for anything other than a tour or something. We did get to go to one of the fields that's been torn down, but they still had where home plate was marked, and they had bleachers, the concrete bleachers that the forest, the trees were reclaiming that area, but you could see where the concrete bleachers was behind home plate that people sat at. And the story with that one is that's where Babe Ruth hit the longest home run in history, a 573-foot hit home run from that field. And they don't have it marked where the ball hit by any means. It's actually some kind of business there now, but interesting story there that they had about that. Another thing was, I didn't realize this as well, it's a big town for Chicago mobsters. There were frequent visitors during Prohibition there. Al Capone, Bugs Moran, all those kind of gangs were there all the time, and the mayor had an understanding with them that they would not bring their Chicago crime and violence to that town. He wanted to keep it clean, and so it was very common for these rivalry gangs to actually mingle with each other. In fact, there's supposedly a picture of Al Capone and Bugs Moran sitting in a restaurant eating together the weekend before the Valentine's Day Massacre, which of course was supposed to have been when Al Capone knocked off Bugs Moran. He didn't attend, but his gang all got eliminated. So it was in the supposedly this picture's in the Gangster Museum, which we didn't go through. So you know, interesting story nonetheless, right? Speakeasies were pretty common around the town. I think that they claimed there was many around, 7 or 8 of them. We actually went to a restaurant one night that was supposedly one of these speakeasies, and they did it the old-fashioned way, kinda. They sent you a password. After you made your reservation, you walked into the front door, and it looked like a library. No markings on the door, on the sign outside or anything. It was just a library door. You went in, and then they would ask you for your password. In our case, it was Picasso. And he asked, what was your favorite artist? And we said Picasso. And he knocked on the wall, and a couple of minutes later, one of these bookshelves came inward, and we were led into the restaurant. So that's pretty interesting. And then exiting was just as interesting. We went out a door that led us through the back side of a phone booth that was on the outside of the building. So anyway, it was pretty cool to do some of that. We just had a wonderful time in Hot Springs. I know this video's, I'm kicking myself because it's going to go beyond the 10-minute limit that I put on myself, but it was such a wonderful trip. I hope you guys have a chance to if you're ever out that way in our country, please do not pass up Hot Springs, Arkansas. There's so many other things that we didn't get to do. It's a great little city for a 4 or 5 day vacation. Probably can make a good time of it. A lot of hiking and things like that we didn't do. We had a great vacation. We had a great anniversary, and I think I have a great wife. So another reason why I'll say at the very end of this, before I turn on my videos, I'll have a few of them on here. Retirement is great. Hope you enjoy the videos, and hope you will stay tuned to click on the link that will take you to my description of me going through the bathhouse as well. Thank you. So we're walking down the Bath Row street again today, getting ready to go to a bathhouse. But a building I wanted to point out is this one here. It's a huge building, definitely a big part of the landscape in this strip area. It's an old Armed Forces hospital that opened up during World War II for people obviously coming from the war. It was there and open many years after that. It did finally close down as a military hospital when Bethesda opened up their hospital in Maryland, and so popular and well known today. It's been different things since then. Unfortunately, it's closed now. It has been for 5 or 6 years, but just a massive building that you would hate to, you'd hate to see something happen to it, but probably needs a lot of repairs, so may not, nothing ever come of it either. I don't know if you can see the birds flying above. I think those are American eagles. There's an American eagle habitat close by here up on one of these hills behind me. And so you see those eagles everywhere. I'm not going to swear that's what it is, but there's a lot of them up towards the hillside up in here is the habitat. So it makes sense that they could fly a little bit farther away from there and maybe fly over the top of this strip. This is what they call Bathhouse Row in Hot Springs, Arkansas. You can see the various buildings down through there. They're all white in color. Originally there were 8 bathhouses. There's only 2 now that actually still offer bath services. The others are museums, shops, and various things. I think the one on the very end down there is now a bar, a craft beer brewery house, where they actually use the mineral water that was there for the bathhouse to make their craft beer with. So, interesting place. If you're ever in Hot Springs, Arkansas, you might want to consider staying at the Williams House Bed and Breakfast. It's a wonderful place to stay. Starting with some of the history of it, it's built in 1890. So back in those days, obviously no cars. So you'll see on each side of the house, there's these hookups here, these concrete pillars where you would hook your horses up for the carriages. And then here is a step that you would step up on to get into the carriage, from the sidewalk. Really interesting. This house is got 5 rooms, I think, in the house, and 3 rooms in the carriage house, which is where we actually ended up staying. So, great place to stay if you're ever in this area. So my wife and I came to Hot Springs, Arkansas for our anniversary, and learning some things about the city. We've never been here before. It was the birthplace of spring baseball. So you can see here that in 1886 was when the Chicago White Stockings, which is now the Cubs, came to Hot Springs. So also there's a list of all the baseball players and then other figures that have been here. But the baseball players include Babe Ruth, Cy Young, Hack Wilson, some of the real old players, Jimmy Fox. So another thing I saw right next to this is a commemorative to Dizzy and Daffy Dean, who were born in Arkansas, and apparently came here often after they retired to Hot Springs to coach the nationally known baseball school. So we're at Don's Southern Social here in Hot Springs, Arkansas. It's a speakeasy, former speakeasy back in the Prohibition days, and you can see the bar. There's a sign over there that says Prohibition ends at last. But it's a neat little place. You come in the front door, and you have to tell them, they text you, in our case it was an artist's name, and you tell them what, they ask you what artist you're here for. You walk in, it looks like a library. I'll take a picture of that in a little bit. But then you, when they come to get you, they open, one of the bookshelves comes open, and that's the door that you use to come through into this restaurant. So another neat little thing that we found in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Here's my wife of 17 years. We're now exiting the Speakeasy restaurant, going out a door that looks normal on this side.
Thank you.
That's so neat. That's so neat.
Well, have a great night.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Looks like a regular door on the inside, but on the outside, it's a telephone booth, believe it or not. So they put everything they can into the effort. Here's the entrance to the Speakeasy restaurant. Looks like a library. You see some bookcases back there, but you can see he's opening the door now. Well, the bookcases where some people are going into the restaurant. So that's how you get in. Secret, secret.